Greetings from our Middle Tennessee studio, and welcome to today's Vista Points podcast, Choose Your Path, where the Vista Points staff are committed to improving the quality of life for people of any age who are living with a physical, mental, or intellectual disability. I'm Bart, your podcast host. My role is to walk with you on this journey of discovering and using Special Needs Trust. In previous episodes, we introduced Special Needs Trust, what they are, stories of people and how they've used their Special Needs Trust, and how the Special Needs Trust has impacted their lives. Today, we're going to answer some of the questions that we've received from you, our listeners. We've grouped these questions into specific topics. For example, some people want to know what can be purchased using Special Needs Trust money. Others want to know how to establish a Special Needs Trust. And some people want to know how to gift money to a loved one who has a special needs trust. We've picked the topic of third party supplemental needs trust as our topic for this podcast. Ms. Darlene Kemp, Vista Points Executive Director, is our knowledgeable guest. Welcome, Darlene.
Hi, Bart. It's nice to be on the air with you today. I think our listeners will get some keen insight into how a third party supplemental needs trust is established and how money can be deposited into the trust. We'll also answer other questions we have received regarding who can put money into the trust and what can be purchased with money from the trust.
Great, Darlene. Is there a question that you get all the time? I mean, a question that almost every person who wants to establish a trust asks you.
Well, Bart, yes. The question that most people ask is what happens to the money that remains in the trust after the beneficiary dies? Why don't we end our podcast with the answer to that question?
That sounds good, Darlene. I'm sure our listeners will like what you have to say. Now, let's get started with the first question. One of our listeners asked, what is a third party supplemental needs trust?
That's a great opening question. When someone is living with a disability, and that could be a physical, mental, or intellectual disability, their family may want to set aside money as a gift for that person. We call a person living with a disability the beneficiary. By federal law, the family can gift money to the beneficiary, their loved one, by depositing that money into a third party supplemental needs trust.
Well, Darlene, can money be added to this type of special needs trust, and how often can you add to it?
Money in the form of a gift can be added whenever the family wants. Other people can gift money to the beneficiary's trust as well, such as close friends. We do have to know from where the money originates. So, for example, a person may mail in a check with a note that they would like the money that they are gifting to be deposited into the beneficiary's trust. The check gives us the paper trail of where the money originated and who made the gift. At Vista Points, we keep detailed records of all sorts of things. This way, if a government agency such as TennCare or Social Security or even the Department of Human Resources asks for proof of something, we have it for them.
That's interesting. It sounds like the trustee, which is Vista Points in this case, has a lot of laws and guidelines to follow. I imagine the paperwork your staff and you do each day is quite time consuming.
Oh, yes, it is. But we do it because we follow the letter of the law. We want our beneficiaries to live a good quality of life by having their supplemental needs trust work for them. The family has peace of mind knowing that Vista Points has their back. They don't have to worry about keeping detailed records because we do that for them. Now, that being said, they do have to send us information from time to time, but it's not difficult. The part I like is when the family calls and expresses their gratitude for the work we do in helping their loved one. That never gets old.
When the third party supplemental needs trust is established, how long does it take before the beneficiary can begin using the money in the trust?
Allow me to back up a little bit. I want to explain the process of how this type of trust is established. It begins usually with a family member, such as a parent, calling the office to obtain more information. From there, we refer the parents to a couple qualified attorneys in their area. The parents will choose the attorney they feel most comfortable using. The attorney will draft the document or agreement that is used to establish the trust. We email the attorney other documents to complete for our office with the family and the beneficiary.
Well, that sounds easy enough, Darlene.
It is. However, the family must supply the attorney with the following items: proof of the beneficiary's benefits that the beneficiary is currently receiving, a list of all income received on a monthly basis, and a list of all assets the beneficiary has. The attorney will use this information to complete the paperwork to establish the special needs trust.
Darlene, I'm hearing you use two terms, special needs trust and supplemental needs trust. Are these interchangeable?
In this case, yes. All three types of trusts for people living with a disability are called special needs trusts. For money that is gifted to the beneficiary, the term supplemental needs trust is used. It helps to differentiate between the types of trusts. The other two types of trusts hold only assets that belong to the beneficiary. No gifted money can be added to those trusts. A third party supplemental needs trust is special.
Okay, after the trust is established, how long is it before the money can be accessed?
It usually takes about 5 to 7 business days to get all of the paperwork recorded. The trust set up at the bank, obtain a tax ID number for the trust, and mail the family a welcome packet. We also mail the attorney a copy of the welcome packet to have for his or her record. After the family and or the beneficiary receives the welcome packet, the trust is ready to be used. We include in the welcome packet distribution request forms. These are used to request items or services to be paid from the trust.
Okay, well, I have a question. What is one thing that the beneficiary requests first after they get this established?
I don't know if you'll believe this or not, but we get many requests for a 60-inch flat screen TV. I was at Sam's Club a few weeks ago and saw that now there are 85-inch flat screen TVs. We haven't received a request yet, but I bet we'll get one soon.
What other things do beneficiaries request? I mean, if they already have the 60-inch TV.
Well, in the welcome packet, we include a list of suggestions for how the trust funds may be used. It's not all inclusive, but it gives the beneficiary and the family some ideas of how to use the trust funds. Many beneficiaries use the trust money to pay for non medical caregivers. This helps the beneficiary to stay more independent, have assistance with bathing and grooming, as well as dressing. They maintain the cleanliness of their home, have their laundry cleaned, and prepare meals. It also gives the beneficiary some social interaction with the caregiver.
Well, thanks, Darlene. Do you have some other examples of what the trust can be used to pay for?
Sure do. Beneficiaries and their families ask for many things. One area where Vista Point stands out is that we give our clients autonomy. That means that they can ask for whatever they need. We will then consider each request. If the beneficiary wants something that cannot be paid from the trust, we try to help by offering alternatives. Many families want dental service, eye exams and glasses, hearing exams and hearing aids, clothing, electronic equipment such as computers and cell phones. We also receive requests for pre need funeral or cremation plans. These are some of the allowable expenses.
Let's end our podcast today with that one question that's burning in everybody's mind. What happens to the money in the third party supplemental trust after the beneficiary dies?
In this type of trust, because all of the money in the trust was gifted to the beneficiary, there is no Medicaid payback clause. This means that after all outstanding bills are paid and administrative expenses are paid, the remaining money in the trust is dispersed to the remainder beneficiaries.
Okay, help me out. What's a remainder beneficiary?
That's a person or multiple people listed in the trust agreement that should receive all or a portion of the money remaining in the trust after the beneficiary dies.
Have you ever had an issue with a remainder beneficiary?
Oh, to tell you the truth, I have. One person called to ask if he could receive his money before his relative, the beneficiary, died. He had signed a contract for a car and didn't want to wait for his relative to pass to receive his portion of the money. I explained to him that although he was named a remainder beneficiary, he would have to wait.
Wow. Do you have another story for us about related to third party supplemental needs trusts?
Oh, Bart, I have many stories, but I'll share this one with you. A woman called trying to find out if she was listed as a remainder beneficiary on her cousin's third party supplemental needs trust. She said that another family member had told her she was listed. She wanted to know how much money she would receive and when she'd get it. She went on to say that her cousin had always supported her in her ways that she had tried to better herself. Now she wanted to better herself with some cosmetic surgery. She wanted her portion of the money right away, she told me. She said she wanted to go to Tijuana for a much needed facelift.
Well, how did you respond to that lady, Darlene?
I explained that I could not give her any information and that she should not count on money that she doesn't have. It's like that old saying, don't count your chickens before they hatch. The lady was not happy with my response, but she accepted it.
Wow, Darlene, you really deal with a lot of different people and all their questions and requests. How do you handle it all?
I think I handle it because I remember that our beneficiaries are living with a disability. It's difficult for them. Their family usually means well and wants the best for their loved one. All in all, I think I have a fantastic job. I'm able to help so many people of all ages live a good quality of life. And I don't do this alone. My staff is there helping every step of the way.
Thank you so much, Darlene. This is valuable information. I wanted to tell our listeners that while I was going through the social media, I saw that Darlene is being congratulated for 16 years of service at Vista Points. I thought that was wonderful. That gives her a large area of expertise. You're providing our listeners with such insight into third party supplemental needs trusts and all that goes into managing these trusts. Thank you to our podcast listeners for tuning in to today's episode of Choose Your Path, a Vista Points podcast. Don't forget to ask your questions if you haven't yet. I encourage you to do so. You can ask your questions over the phone by calling Vista Points office at 888-422-4076. That number is 888-422-4076. Each of the Vista Points team is happy to answer your questions and assist you in whatever way they can. Or you can ask your question through the Facebook page Vista Points Inc. That's Vista Points INC, where you can send a direct message, otherwise known as a DM. I'm happy to say our podcasts have become a valuable resource to many people. You can subscribe to the Vista Points YouTube channel and be notified of the latest episodes as they go live, which is on the 1st and 15th of every month. The YouTube channel is named Vista Points SNT. That's SNT, as in Special Needs Trust. You can find past episodes of the Vista Points website at vistapoints.org. That's vistapoint.org. You can also listen to past episodes on the YouTube site or on our website for your own listening enjoyment. Enjoy your day with your loved ones. Come back for more or look into past episodes of Choose Your Path. Regardless of where or when you find us, we walk beside you on your path. I look forward to sharing more information with you on how special needs trust can be of benefit to anyone living with a disability, physical, mental, or intellectual. Cheers!